Right now on your Fast Track to 7, a bombshell by the Colorado Supreme Court. In a landmark decision, the court is prohibiting former President Donald Trump from appearing on the state's primary next year on the grounds of the 14th Amendment.
The disqualification cites Trump's role in the January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. This ruling marks the first time ever that a 14th Amendment challenge to Trump's candidacy has succeeded. But the court is putting its decision on hold until January 4th to allow for an appeal. The Trump campaign calls yesterday's decision flawed. They say they are vowing a swift appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. New this morning, an Arizona grand jury has indicted a man accused of stabbing former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin in prison. 52-year-old John Tursick, now facing charges of attempted murder and others. He's suspected of stabbing Chauvin 22 times with an improvised knife in the law library of the Tucson Federal Correctional Institute. It happened the day after Thanksgiving.
Chauvin returned to prison custody earlier this month after several days in a Tucson hospital. He is serving 22 years for the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis in May of 2020. Chauvin's legal team is working to get him removed from the Tucson prison unless major changes are made. We are hearing this morning from another Fargo police officer who was involved in that deadly ambush shooting last July. Fargo PD yesterday released an interview with Tyler Hawes and his wife Madison.
Valley News team Stacy Van Dyke reporting on the shooting and Hawes' journey to recovery.
Officer Jake Wallin died in the July 14th tragedy. We've heard from 2 of the 3 other officers involved, Zach Robinson and Andrew Dotis. The only officer we haven't heard much from is Tyler Hawes, until now.
One of the first things that Ty said to me was, after he got the breathing tube out, was, "Hey, so I got shot."
A moment of levity for Tyler Hawes in a situation for which he says there's no playbook.
We always talk about cops getting shot and dying. It's very seldom talked about cops getting shot and living.
Officer Hawes became an FPD officer less than 3 months before the July 14th shooting. What struck him most is that they never saw it coming.
We train all the time for stuff like that. You know, we know how to handle that. This call wasn't that. I expected to go handle a crash. We weren't expecting a fight that day.
In what the chief called a heinous and unthinkable act, Officer Hawes and his training officer, Andrew Dotis, were 15 feet from a gunman's vehicle when he opened fire.
I was only 3 days into training with Andrew, and it was a very quick 3 days where all of a sudden worst day of our life happened.
Ambushed, but keenly aware of what was going on, despite being shot and on the ground.
I still have my earpiece in while this is all going on. So, I'm hearing Zach's radio coming through. I hear shots fired, 3 officers down. Send everybody. And I hear all of it.
He and Officer Dotis became close in the hospital while relearning how to walk, writing notes to each other on the whiteboards in their rooms.
It was awesome to be able to, have that message, and every day I would look at it. Nurses, I wouldn't let them touch it. That stayed up until 24th day I was there and we left.
24 days in the hospital, 14 surgeries, and his wife, Maddie, didn't leave his side.
The medics who came in said that, I was there with him in the ambulance, and I asked if there was anything that he wanted me to tell anybody, and he said, "You tell my wife I love her and I love what I do."
Loves what he does and loves his fallen classmate.
Nothing I did that day is heroic. What Jake did was heroic. He tried to bring the fight to the guy, and he distracted him long enough for Zach to get shots on.
He echoes the other officers in that this will not deter him from doing what he was meant to do.
What we do, it matters. I love what I do. I can't wait to get back to the streets.
And happening today later this morning, the Fargo Police and Fire Departments are honoring those first responders involved in the July shooting. The city holding a special ceremony at 9 a.m. at City Hall Commission chambers, all to recognize those heroic actions of police, fire, and EMS workers.
The public is invited to attend. However, if you can't make it, that's okay. We'll have it for you right here on Valley News Live and on that free VNL News app.
Time now for a look at our storm team forecast as we send things on over to Summer this morning. Good morning.
Hello and good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Here's what we're watching for you through the next couple of days. Partly cloudy today and a little breezy as well. Really generally quiet through the rest of this week until we get to Sunday and Monday. Christmas Eve now an additional first alert weather day. So first alert weather days for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day for a wintry system moving in. And then the end of the year snapshot already fast approaching. Some light flurries, some light snow showers up across northern Minnesota this morning exiting, and we're dry and mostly cloudy across the Southern Valley. As for temperatures, Southern Valley seeing some upper 20s to low 30s, 21 in Oaks, a cooler spot there. And in the Northern Valley, generally mid 20s. We're at 25 in Thief River, Roseau, and Grand Forks. Cool 16 in Langdon. Off to the bus stop, partly cloudy skies expected in the Southern Valley, pretty overcast north. And by the time kids are heading home from school today, the last couple of days of school before Christmas break, temperatures in the mid 30s here across the Southern Valley. 37, the forecast high today in Fargo with those mostly sunny skies through the afternoon despite our cloudier start. And that southeast wind generally around 10 miles per hour through this afternoon, but that'll be picking up later this evening. And once again, just a couple of degrees cooler across the north. Now looking at a little bit more detail on our Christmas system, there are still some uncertainties that we're tracking. Our system is still out in the Pacific, but we are watching for areas of rain initially as temperatures will be warm enough. And in some places, changing over to some freezing rain, some icy mix, and some snow. That'll impact holiday travel in some locations. The exact track and amounts are still a little bit of a question mark at this time, but temperatures leading up to our weekend, take advantage of those upper 30s to low 40s. Saturday, mid 40s possible here in Fargo. And then we'll be rounding out the year with temperatures still roughly 10 degrees above average, close to 30 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks like we're dreaming of a mild Christmas, huh?
We are. And some places have a better chance now of seeing that white Christmas.
Ooh, okay, yeah, we'll stay tuned for that. Thank you, Summer.
Today's the day a North Dakota judge is hearing arguments on a request to block the state's abortion ban in specific situations where the procedure is needed to preserve the life or health of a woman or in cases of lethal fetal conditions. Now, the Red River Women's Clinic, formerly of Fargo, is challenging the current law, claiming that it is too narrow and violates the state's constitution.
Opponents of the ban say the medical exemptions language in the law is vague and makes it unclear just how sick or near death a woman needs to be before a doctor can intervene. It looks like another plea deal is in the works for a Warren, Minnesota man accused of beating his ex-wife to death in front of their 5 children. Anders Odegaard is charged with murder of Carissa Odegaard in August of 2022. Odegaard's attorney says he is working with the prosecutor on a letter outlining a plea agreement, which he expects to be filed and ready by tomorrow afternoon. A previous plea deal was rejected.
It's 10 years in prison for a Fargo man who killed 16-year-old James Moore during a drug deal gone wrong last spring. Marcus Rexroad will serve time for being a felon in possession of a gun. He says Moore set up the drug deal with the intent to rob and potentially kill him, and Rexroad says he shot the teen in self-defense. A Fargo man is accused of stealing more than $30,000 from his father. Jeffrey Faltersack is charged in Cass County Court with theft and exploitation of an eligible adult.
Court documents say Adult Protective Services contacted West Fargo police, alleging that Faltersack was writing checks to himself from his father's account when he was supposed to use that money to help his dad pay his bills. 4 men are facing drug charges after a traffic stop along I-94 near Moorhead turned into a drug bust. Police say they found 2,600 fentanyl pills with a street value of $26,000 during a search of that car Monday night.
Stephen Smith is from Crookston. The other suspects are from the Twin Cities. All 4 are facing aggravated controlled substance charges. Another emergency in Upper Red Lake just 2 days after 3 dozen people had to be rescued from an ice flow. The sheriff's office now working to get a plane out of the icy lake waters. The Beltrami County Sheriff's Office says 2 people were coming to the lake for a day of ice fishing. The pilot landed on the ice, but the nose of that plane broke through into open water. Both people, though, were able to get out safely. And Minnesota has a new state flag, and there's a lot of chat about it on social media, some good, but some bad. A state committee yesterday picked a stylized version of one of their finalists to represent the North Star State into the future. The committee picked a finalist Friday, then yesterday adjusted the star and the color scheme, removing the stripes. The legislature must pass both the new flag and the state seal into law. If all goes smoothly, that new flag will fly on May 11th, which is Minnesota's Statehood Day. We're checking in now with a final shot with our own Jordan.
Yeah, thank you, Ashlyn. It is a day full of all sorts of emotions for me. It's my last day here on the Valley today and at Valley News Live. I've been reporting in this region since 2015. I've worked as a reporter, a photographer, producer, now the morning news anchor. Before I went to college at MSUM, this job was literally a dream of mine. I woke up before school back in my hometown of Perham and turned on the Valley today. I dreamed of being on this set. Here we are. Thank you for waking up with me and this entire team for the past 5 years. It's a responsibility that I never took lightly. Thank you for sharing your stories with me. During this time, I've talked to a local mother whose baby was diagnosed with Down syndrome in utero. The child's father told her to get an abortion because the child's life was not worth it. Thankfully, she refused because she knew the value of her child's life with or without that extra chromosome. That child is now happy and healthy and goes to services at Gigi's Playhouse in Fargo, which I was lucky enough to also volunteer at. During my time, I talked to a former teacher of mine, my 9th grade civics teacher, who tried to take his own life after a cancer diagnosis. But during that, he was found. He is alive now, and he is spreading the importance of mental health, an amazing story that they let me tell. I also talked to a grandma who has dementia. She can't remember much day to day, but still plays the most beautiful rendition of Silent Night. Thank you for letting me tell your stories, and thank you for watching. Another proud moment of mine is when I talked about being openly gay on air. I had someone come up to me afterward and say that his boyfriend took his own life because he was ashamed of who he was, and he wished that there would have been someone that he could talk to. Thank you for watching. During all of this time, I have learned that as long as we can say, I see you, I hear you, and we love you, everything can be better. Again, thank you so much for all of these years of laughs and information, and I hope to see you around again soon.